Is the Tuesday morning edition of Sidelines, brought to you by the great folks at Hewlett and Dunn, Landers Ford, Rumble Boxing, and hempforpros.com. It is Tuesday, November 25th. What a wild, wild world that we live in. A lot to cover today. Jordan Davis Hill, 247 Sports. He covers the Georgia Bulldogs, the team that Dave Bartu and the panel yesterday agreed has the best chance of any SEC team to win the national championship. We'll also be joined by Barry Trammell, one of the best sports writers in America, out in Oklahoma. Love having him on. Yancey Porter checks in from Oxford. Yancey's got a lot to say on this lane.
I got some questions for Yancey today.
Yeah, we do. And also, Rodney Orr-Tyler Insider. Do us a favor. Take a picture with your phone of the QR codes. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Share us and like us. I got a lot of friends that watch this show. Y'all know me. Share the show. Helps out more than you know. Brendan's right. He's our fearless leader. Share the show, like us, pin us, tag us, whatever you got to do. We're growing. We're bringing the best content every day. And let's get started with Jordan Davis Hill, one of our best regulars on this show. Always shows up to practice. I think Kirby Smart would enjoy coaching Jordan Davis Hill. He's a big guy, could play some football. Jordan, first off, how you doing this morning? And Thanksgiving week, we got food on our minds, a lot of family coming over. Cousin Eddie will be here before you know it. Let's talk some football.
I slipped her, Rebecca. Sorry, Jordan. Rebecca's on the plane. Rebecca Dubeck and the family. Got to head down and
you can go with
turkey, sis. Come on.
Right. I love it. Jordan, big one this week, but let's talk about where Georgia is right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a prime spot, sort of like you were hitting on there a minute ago. Right now, 10-1. You know, I think the last I saw, ESPN's analytics has Georgia at like a 99% chance to make the playoff. And really the biggest question right now, obviously you got to take care of Georgia Tech on Friday. But, you know, if they're going to play in the SEC title game or not, you know, they still got to see what happens with Texas and Texas A&M on Friday night. It seems like that's where, you know, the biggest swing and the game really to pay attention to when it comes to the different tiebreakers. But I think Georgia likes where it is right now. You know, it's not completely healthy. You know, they've got C.J. Allen, who I don't expect to play against Georgia Tech. You know, he's still out, got hurt against Texas. But I think Georgia likes where it is right now, just has to show up ready to play on Black Friday and then see if they got a game the next week or if they got a little bit of a break for the next time they play.
If you're comparing this Georgia team to, say, the last 5 years teams, where do they rank?
It's hard to say for sure. I kind of have to compare it offenses and defenses. I think this offense is more potent than probably the 21 one, probably not quite 22, but then definitely the one since 22, just because of the way they've been able to run the ball, the different receivers they've had involved, Gunner's playmaking ability. The defense has really come around, I think, in the last 3 weeks. It's still not 2021. It's still not 2022. I probably put it on par with the 23 defense of what they were able to accomplish and, you know, what they had going. You know, they went undefeated in that 23 season, lose to Alabama by 3 in the SEC title game, and that knocks them out of the last 14 playoff, or, you know, makes them on the outside looking in with that last 14 playoff. So it's a good team. I think with what it's got on both sides of the ball, it's up there with a really good team and one of the better ones that Georgia's had. I don't think anything will touch 22 because of what they had going on offense and then, you know, what they still had on defense after losing some big guys from the 21 team.
You look around college football right now, Ohio State, Notre Dame, a lot of people think we're going to have a rematch of last year's national championship game. And strength of schedule, throw that out the window, whatever. Ohio State's loaded. So is Georgia. Is it fair to call this Georgia team kind of the no-name dogs? I mean, they've got great talent, but you don't have the household names, but you got a lot of talent everywhere that I look on that roster, both sides of the line of scrimmage and special teams.
I'd say especially on defense because of how they've grown in the last probably month of the season, because early in the season, we were kind of looking at each other going, man, we're talking about a Georgia team where the defense is the one that you're kind of worried about. But credit to all those guys. I feel like they've really grown up. I mean, especially the guys I think have to be shouted out. Ellis Robinson and DeMello Jones at corner. Now, DeMello doesn't start, but he rotates in really pretty regularly with him and Ellis, and those guys have just become more physical. I mean, I kind of thought the tone was set in that Texas game. I think it was Texas' second drive. DeMello Jones grabs Ryan Wingo and it looked like something out of WWE, Rob. I thought I was watching WrestleMania and kind of hit him with a suplex. And that's really how those two corners have played in the last few weeks. And to talk about Ellis specifically, this was a 5-star guy. And early in the season, watching him, I'm going, this guy can't tackle. This guy is a liability when it comes to getting guys to the ground. And credit to him, and credit to the corners and the coaches for getting these guys where they're more reliable. The secondary I thought struggled early in the season with missed tackles. They've done a much better job, and you got to get these guys on the ground. And if that's ever been the case, and if that's ever been more true, you look at not necessarily just the secondary, but the defense in general facing Georgia Tech. Do not let number 10, do not let Haynes King get loose, because he had 5 total touchdowns in that game last year. He did everything he could to try to pull off the upset.
Yeah, you're right. Haynes King has been around for a long time. I mean, 6 or 7 years, I'm guessing. But you gotta love a guy like Haynes King on your roster. His father, head of the Texas High School Football Coaches Association. He could open a door or two in recruiting. But that game Friday at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you'll be there. It's going to be packed. It's going to be wild. I'm willing to bet there are going to be people out front still trying to sell paper tickets too, because it's one of those things. That's a couple of weeks from now, but that, of course, the SEC championship. But Georgia Tech. What about Georgia Tech is keeping you up at night? They're 9-2, got whacked over the weekend. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is Haynes King, because I look at their offense. I think Jamal Haynes is a good running back. I think they've got a solid offensive line, but I think it's just Haynes King refusing to lose. I mean, I watched, we kind of did a watch along on the junkyard over on Dogs 24/7 for that Georgia Tech Pitt game, because Georgia played early. So I was like, all right, well, let's watch Georgia Tech.
Watch along. I like that.
Yeah. We kept the thread going. There are a lot of folks in there. But, like you'd watch Haynes King take a hit and you're like, man, he's probably got to come out after that, man. He got whacked, and then no, he's good. And that's sort of been his MO, and that was his MO in that game last year. And truly, like, I don't like moral victories. I don't like stuff like that. But you want to talk about a guy who deserved to win. I mean, Haynes King played well enough to beat Georgia last year. And credit to Dan Jackson, right before the 2-minute warning of that game, Dan Jackson forces a Haynes King fumble, and that gives Georgia late life. And then we get to overtime. We get to 8 overtimes, all that stuff. But to me, it's mostly Haynes King, because this Georgia Tech defense you saw against Pitt, they really struggled, especially stopping the run. And I had this in the watch along thread. If I'm Nate Frazier, I was watching that game. I just had a big old smile on my face, because they really struggle to stop the run. The defense has been their weakest point. But if you were to look into a crystal ball and say, hey, Georgia Tech finds a way to win this, I'm like, I guess Haynes King had the game of his life, and he's fully capable. He is a very good quarterback. He's going to do everything he can. His last time playing Georgia, he's going to do what he can. He's going to leave it all out there on the field.
All right, Gunnar Stockton. I'm just a huge fan of his. He's just so damn tough. He's a leader. No doubt, you go in that locker room, you wouldn't even know who he was. You'd know he's the quarterback. I think those guys play doubly hard for him. He's an elevator. Makes everybody play better. He's coming back next year, he says. Were you shocked at that? I'm not.
No, not at all. I mean, and there's part of it that's just logical. I mean, he's not an NFL guy. He's not going to be a guy. I think he'll get an opportunity eventually. Yeah. But, he'd be a late round guy. He's like 6'1", 220. I mean, that's not big enough in today's NFL to be able to go out there. But, I mean, the dude wins. And if you're a Georgia fan, you should be super excited about the future with Gunnar Stockton. There's been all kinds of talk last couple of weeks about Jared Curtis, the 5-star quarterback. He's committed to Georgia. Is Vanderbilt going to flip him? All that stuff. And you have to keep in mind that the quarterback position, you want to be ready for the next guy. But they're sitting pretty right now with Gunnar Stockton. He's more than proven himself this year. He's got a lot left for this year. And if you're Georgia, you should be like, man, think about another year with him having a year under his belt. I don't think Georgia's going away anytime soon.
No. Okay, so Jeff Boone, one of my favorite dogs in the world, watches every day. Grew up in Athens and Atlanta. Had a question for you, and that question was: if you had to take any opponent on Saturday for the national championship at this point in the season, let's say they moved it up, who's the team you match up the best with of the top 5 or 6?
Well, it's kind of hard to say. I mean, I look at like Indiana and I look at like, who's a little bit lower, but like a Texas Tech. I just would like to see what Georgia could do because I think that some of those defenses, I'm just not convinced have gone up against teams of Georgia's caliber. And I'm really interested, if I had to pick right now and it's like who's playing in this national championship, I think I would pick Ohio State and I would pick Georgia. That's not exactly going out on a limb given how good both those teams have played. But there's part of me that thinks I'd pick Georgia. And a lot of it has to do with I don't know that Ohio State's been tested enough. And, we'll get a valuable kind of data point on Saturday when they play Michigan. Now, that's not a Michigan team I think is really as good as the record indicates, but we've seen Ohio State struggle with worse Michigan teams. So I think Georgia should feel really good about where it is right now. And I will be interested. There's some games that still have to play out, but I think Georgia, Texas A&M, the SEC title game would be a really entertaining game. What does that Texas A&M offense do against, that Georgia defense? We saw them struggle in that first half against South Carolina, and then they righted the ship. There's several matchups that I'd be really interested in seeing, and again, I wouldn't be shocked if we see the Bulldogs and the Buckeyes play for it all.
Yeah, and you think about Georgia, Texas A&M for the championship. Georgia, the key thing with them is there's not another team that plays the full 60 the way they do. And it's different. And that's why Kirby's guys, if you look, we talked about it the other day with Dave Bartu. Look at the top 3, Ryan Day, Kirby Smart, and then you look at Lane Kiffin, and Kurt Cignetti. Especially Cignetti, Smart, and Day. There's a lot of intensity there. So throw out that narrative. You can't coach these kids tough. I think that is the DNA of Georgia. There's not another program in America that plays with that intensity every single snap. Or you're not playing.
My biggest thing really, and what would be interesting with A&M, I'd say one of Georgia's greatest strengths is there's no panic. I could point to several games in the last 2 years where me sitting up in the press box, I'm like, well, that did it. And it's interesting that we're talking about Georgia Tech. I wrote a story this morning about Haynes King. He has an 11-yard rushing touchdown that gives Tech, I think it was a 27-13 lead with about 5.5 minutes left. And we're all up there going, well, that did it. Tech just sealed it. And Georgia just refused to lose. Go down, score a touchdown. Carson Beck hits Dominic Lovett. The forced fumble I mentioned a few minutes ago on 3rd down. I think if Haynes King holds on to the ball, they convert and they can run the clock from there. Georgia gets the ball, another dominant Lovett score, and then we go to all those overtimes. And I would give credit to Texas A&M for that South Carolina game. Watching, I think they were down 30-3. I was like, this is over. And credit to Mike Elko, and I shared this on our board afterwards. He was asked about his halftime speech, and he talked about, look, when everybody else is panicked, I have to stay calm. Basically he was saying the head coach is kind of be the opposite of the moment. If everybody's fired up, hey, well, we can still clean some stuff up. Things are going wrong. We got plenty of time. We got another half. I think Mike Elko and Kirby Smart have that in common. They're gonna pay attention to what's going on and read the room, and if they are all, they know what their team needs. And I think that's a huge asset that both programs have.
Yeah. Well, it's fun because I love to see effort. I mean, a lack of effort, no way. But Georgia, you get a full 60. All right, Jordan, as always, thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us. Have a great Thanksgiving with your family, and let people know how they can follow you, because there's going to be a lot of sitting around, I hate to say it, laying around, but what a great time to learn about the Junkyard Dog podcast by one of the best guys and the best writers, sports coverage in America.
I appreciate that, Rob, and Hank. Happy Thanksgiving to you and everybody watching. listen. And dogs247.com got the Junkyard Dogcast podcast. We'll have another one live at 4 p.m. Eastern time today. So a short week with a Black Friday game, but I love it. That means more stuff to do in a short amount of time, and then we'll eat real good on Thursday and get ready for football on Friday.
And you're going to have a big watch along at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, man. It's going to be. I will not be missing that game. Take care, man. All right. Bring in Barry Trammell. Barry, another one of the great writers. Man, you started at 17. Every time you come on, every time I see you or hear you, you get me fired up about college football. And again, I hope you get an Emmy, you and Kirk Bowles, for your part in Wishbone, the ESPN documentary. That was great stuff. And we had Barry Switzer on the show a few weeks ago. I wish he'd come out of his shell. He's just no color.
Yeah.
Wow, that was fun. But how you doing?
Well, I'm doing well. I was with Switzer last week. We had a special radio show with Joe Castiglione going out as the OU athletic director. And Barry Switzer and Bob Stoops got together, and we had an hour and a half radio at a local Italian place here in Norman. Yeah, he's, let's see, Switzer was born in, he is now 88. Wow. So he's a pretty strong 88, I'd say.
Yeah, he definitely. I want to know what exercise. He's man. His recall is like a steel trap. I mean,
it's crazy.
It was a walk through history. It was the Friday roundtable we do. It was a treasure, and it'll be out there forever. All right, this Oklahoma man, Brent Venables. This defense, they keep finding excuses to win. Got LSU Saturday. They win. No way you're keeping the Sooners out of the playoff, is there?
No, I think if they win and they're in now, not assured of a playoff of a home game. You know, you're not assured of staying at 8th. Yeah. People could jump you, but I don't know that 3 teams could jump them. Is what would have to happen, fall below 10th. So I think a win and they're safely in, and that's all you could ask for at this point. But you want more. I mean, it'd be really cool for the Sooners if they were able to host a playoff game. But yeah, they've had a remarkable November. Missouri's, not a top 25 team now, but they were when they played last week. 3 straight top 25 wins, 2 of them on the road at Tennessee and Alabama. Yeah, great stretch for Brent Venables. Really validates his vision of this program, build it around defense, become tough, become gritty, those kinds of things. So I just think that this has been a November to remember for sure.
Yeah. Could you have foreseen that before the season started, going on the road to Knoxville and Bryant-Denny and getting those wins? I mean, for someone who's grown up in the SEC like me and Brendan, that is, as my kids say, ginormous.
Yeah. I didn't see. I thought Oklahoma could have a good team. I thought they did have a good team.
Yeah.
But I did not see 9-2 going to Thanksgiving weekend, likely 10-2, favored to be 10-2. I didn't see that. So I think the elevation of the defense clearly has been. We thought if OU was going to, as soon as we're going to rise, it would be offensive related. They'd get the offense back in gear. That really hasn't happened. The offense is better than it was last year, but it's still not very good. It's not good at all by Oklahoma standards. Yeah. Yet the defense is elevated. I think it's the best defense in the SEC. Most of the analytics say that, and they played a very tough schedule, and they've managed to answer most of the calls. Yeah. And Venables has just developed an incredibly deep defense. Our Mason Thomas has missed the last 2.5, 2 3/4 games. He's probably their best defensive player. And it really hasn't slowed them down at all defensively. And they really put the kibosh on Missouri, did a nice job with Tennessee, did a nice job with Alabama. Those are really good offenses and gave themselves a chance to win, and in the end did win.
Brent Venables, in my opinion, ranks as a defensive coordinator up there with Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt. If he keeps putting defenses together like this, Brother Bill Oliver comes to mind. I mean, he talked about Brent Venables, what you know of him. It's kind of his story, because what he did at Clemson was remarkable, and now he's got it going at Oklahoma. And I think his players really play hard for him.
Well, Venables is a interesting personality. He grew up hard scrabble in Salina, Kansas. Single parent mom, had a couple of stepfathers and father figures in and out of his life, but had grandparents that were rock solid and sort of helped keep him on a good path. Just worked himself through junior college, ended up at Kansas State as an unathletic linebacker, but loved football and fell in the good favor of Bill Snyder and got on board with Bill Snyder at a young age when the Stoops brothers were there, and sort of hit it off with the Stoops brothers, and they brought Brent to Norman with them at the age of 28, I think it was, co-defensive coordinator during the Oklahoma to start the Oklahoma rebuild. And when Mike left for Arizona to be head coach, Brent became the defensive coordinator, did a great job. Some things happened. Brent thought it might be time to try something new, forge my own path. Goes to Clemson. You know it as well as I do what happened to Clemson.
Yeah,
and really kept at bay lots of head coaching opportunities, including in the SEC. Auburn, in particular, wanted Brent Venables.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he would have done a good job at Auburn, but finally pulled the trigger on the Oklahoma job when Lincoln Riley left, and it was the ultimate opposite, right? I mean, Brent Venables, all defense. Lincoln Riley, all offense. Sooners no good on defense for a long time. Brent has reversed the battleship. It's a very difficult thing to do. Yeah. He's done it. The defensive culture is completely entrenched. He's got to get that offense fixed, as we know. But man, that is a heck of a defense, and right now it's winning.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to sit down and talk with Jim Nagy, who was the executive director of the Reese's Pieces Mobile Senior Bowl, and ask him kind of what his vision is for Oklahoma football going forward?
I have. Right before the season, I got to sit down with Jim and basically did the Jim Nagy story and what it is that attracted him to Oklahoma to get in the college game.
Barry, I didn't interrupt you. We lost. Can you hit the camera again? We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Well, let me find you here then.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. But keep talking about Jim Nagy, because I've always thought he would have a great spot in coaching, or certainly where he is now as a GM.
Yeah, he's done a really good job in terms of taking load off of Brent Venables. This is a case of with Oklahoma, they've set up the NFL style. General manager helps put the roster together. The coach does gets more into just the day-to-day team building, those kinds of things. And when you've got that kind of support, I think Brent Venables, a lot of the details he doesn't have to worry about. The contract negotiations, the portal scouting. I don't know how people have done that. I don't know how head coaches who do that. I know Kirby was doing most of that at Georgia. It's a very difficult load, very difficult assignment. So I think when you look at how a head coach functions in college football, it was sort of what's the word? Wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
Not in the NFL. It's not that way in the NFL. Jim has brought that perspective in, and it's really so far it's worked great. I think there have been a few maybe missteps the wrong, but a little questions from each other is how's this work? How's this go? What do we do about this guy? Jaden Knott's a good example. I'm not positive that the football staff, coaching staff, really thought Jaden Knott was necessary. They brought him in anyway. We thought he was going to be a player, barely played, making a lot of money from Cal Berkeley, even when the running back depth chart was pretty thin. Last week against Missouri was a good example. Ott doesn't play. So I think, there's probably been a few contentious moments as they work through this, but all in all, it looks like a great marriage so far. And Jim's a fun guy. I was talking with Jim, and he got all fired up because Ron Wolf, the great Green Bay Packer executive, is one of the guys who along the way has helped Jim Nagy. Jim didn't know that Ron's an Oklahoma graduate. Oklahoma didn't even know he's an OU graduate. He was a low key guy, but I was able to tell him, Ron Wolf's an OU guy. I've never really got to interview him. Always tried, but he was all fired up to hear that. So he's done a great job, and I think you're going to see more and more of that in college football.
Yeah,
you're going to see these guys that come from the NFL background and really get going on, implementing the pro style into the college.
Yeah, and he certainly knows where the players are. I know he would every August come out with the 700 players on the watch list for the Senior Bowl, and having him as your GM is powerful. And if you ever go out to a seafood restaurant with him, he probably won't eat it unless it's fresh from the Gulf. Anybody that's lived down there in the Gulf, it's like if it was frozen, I'll take the steak. Barry, one other thing about you is you're a great storyteller. You've got a genius level IQ when it comes to football and history and the big picture. Get your thoughts on year 2 for the Sooners in the SEC, how that fan base out there is embracing what's happening, and whatever else you want to say.
Well, I mean, the story of OU in the SEC so far has been one of great expectations, great anticipation, great excitement, but some trepidation. And in year 1, that was clearly the case. 2-6 in the SEC. Going into this year, the schedule is very daunting. Probably Florida and Mississippi State had tougher conference schedules, but Oklahoma would be next on that list. Very difficult schedule assignment. Yeah. And yet all of a sudden they're winning. I mean, all of a sudden, they beat Alabama. They beat Tennessee. They're 5-2 in the league, and I don't know. I think they're tied for 5th, is the way the standings bear out. But this is the case of this is just sort of a blossoming of that dream that, going into the SEC, you knew you could compete, but would you contend? And the contention has come early. The college football playoffs is right before them. They're not going to be in Atlanta. That would be the next step, make it to the championship game. With 16 teams, that's a very difficult thing to do. If everybody was equal, you would make it one every 8 years. Now, everything's not equal. Some teams have more resources. Some teams win more than others. But, making it to the SEC championship game will be the next step. But it's just gone glorious from an Oklahoma perspective. And Venables is a big part of that because he's brought quickly built SEC type football into the Norman culture, and people have embraced it. There's been quite a bit of grace, I would say, over the ineffective offense. Yeah, the Sooners aren't used to winning 17-6. Yeah, why is the game ended and that's a 1 and a 7 together? What is that? People doesn't work in your brain. Yeah, but but slowly the people are adapting to that kind of football and have loved it and going to all the places, of course, Oxford, Auburn, Knoxville, Tuscaloosa, all those places. Columbia, South Carolina was great. Yeah. The other Columbia, we sort of knew a lot about. But anyway, it's been a great experience, and it certainly helps that they've got a very good chance to go from 2-6 to 6-2.
All right, another last question before you go. A couple more. The 9-game SEC schedule next year. I was joking with someone and said I'm going to go dressed as a 9-game SEC schedule for Halloween to an athletic director's house because everybody pushed for it. And now we've got it next year, but that's an extra loss, for everybody. You're going to see a 9-3 SEC team make the playoff next year based on something like strength of schedule, or is it going to hurt us?
Well, I think the preponderance of the evidence right now says it will hurt the SEC. Yeah. The committee has shown no tendency to embrace strength of schedule. Yeah. We're 2 years into this thing. No 9-3 team made it last year. I don't think a 9-3 is making it this year. And part of that is simple math. I worry about the whole structure of the playoff committee, whether it survives. There's a push from some corners, hey, more analytics, go to the computer rankings. Frankly, I think we all hate the computer rankings. I think we're the children of Israel out in the wilderness. We forgot what life was like in Egypt. We forgot what life was like when computer rankings were picking our playoff teams, even if it was just two.
Yeah.
So I personally think the committee is the way to go. Just get a better committee. Take the laptops away. They pride themselves on watching tape, watching these games. We have a perfectly valid and 150 something year established test proven on how to measure football teams. It is called the scoreboard. If Purdue beats Ohio State 17-15, who cares who has the better line of scrimmage? We have a way of determining who's the best football team. It's called points. So I would like to see just a more results-based selection. Get rid of statistics. Why do you have statistical information in that committee room? I do not care who ranks 8th in third down defense. It's irrelevant. Winning the game is what matters. And if you do it with 3 blocked punts, hand the trophy over to the team that blocked the 3 punts. So to me, that's the key, but I don't see that happening. And I do think there will be ramifications with SEC. I tell you, bigger than the playoff, though. And here's why you get a lot of this pushback. This is going to hurt coaches' status. They're going to play more games that are even, and they're not going to get 3 automatic victories. I mean, Brent Venables went 6-6 in the regular season last year. He had 2 or 3, depending on how you want to. Tulane was a pretty good football team, so I don't want to throw Tulane under the bus. But, most SEC teams, certainly Oklahoma this year, have had 3 automatic victories. It's going to hurt the one-loss record of coaches, and they don't like that. So I personally wish we could go to 3 non-conference games and make them all legitimate games. So we just need to get to the point where we're not this culture of coaches deserve automatic wins. Getting away from that is fantastic. And the 9-game schedule is a step in that direction, but it will come with some playoff pain.
All right. Jeff, last thing, Jeff Boone out in Collierville, Tennessee, get Notre Dame off the playoff committee. Yeah. And that's going to happen, isn't it?
Yeah. Couple of things about Notre Dame. No, I think he means off the executive board.
Yeah.
Where they have a seat at the table with the SEC, the Big Ten. Yeah. I don't have a problem with Notre Dame. I thought Notre Dame took one for the team in the early formation of the playoff format when Notre Dame said we'll be prohibited from an automatic berth, from a first round bye.
Yeah,
top 4. Save it for the conference champions. Of course, now we've reached the era where conference champions are not valued. We got away with the 4 byes going to the champions. The SEC has adopted this mantra of anti-automatic qualifiers. They want the best teams in. That, I think, is a antiquated thinking. I think it's crust on the brain thinking, this idea that the best is somehow somebody who didn't earn it on the field. What's more earning it than winning your conference? Yeah. And it's just 100-year fascination this sport has with letting people decide, whether it's committees, whether it's pollsters, whether it's some formula generated by people who write computer codes. We just, for some reason, we don't want the NFL style of here's the standings. If you finish first, you're in.
Yeah.
And we just, I think we got to get back to that. And sure, the SEC and the Big Ten, particularly the SEC, should have more good teams and more good teams in the playoff. But the idea that, like last year, I thought last year offseason was the most absurd thing I'd ever seen when it came to playoff discussion. Everybody was upset with the committee. everybody thought the committee was just nuts, and frankly I did too. And so the one major change we made to the 2025 playoff was we did away with the 4 buys for automatic qualifiers for 4 champions.
Yeah.
And what did that do? That gave more power, more influence to who? To the committee, which we just established was kooks.
Yeah.
That kind of thing drives me nuts. So I'm Notre Dame doesn't bother me. I think this particular Notre Dame team is given way too much credit. I think they're overseeded. Clearly Miami is taking the wrong end of this, but I don't know that that's Notre Dame's fault. So I think I go back to look. The committee is where I think it's at, and it's not the format. I just think it's the members of this committee need to reassess exactly what they're there for.
Okay. Barry, thank you so much for sharing time. Hope you and your family have a great Thanksgiving. I've got a couple of interns. I would love to get them in a conversation with you because I watch you at media days and different functions I've seen yet. You're an incredible listener. I think you were a trial attorney in the Supreme Court in your previous life, but you kind of lean in and you just got that ability. But thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We got to get you back on again soon and let people know how they can follow you because you put out great work every day.
Yeah, just go TulsaWorld.com is where I'm at. And you can find me on Twitter also, or tweet out all my stuff at Barry Trammell, Berry, and Trammell 1M1L. So, yeah, glad to see people. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. All right, Yancey Porter down in Oxford, Mississippi, the Rebel Yell Hotline. Catch it Monday nights at 6 o'clock on Sports 56 WHBQ in Memphis, 98.5 FM, and all over the great state, Super Talk, Mississippi. Yancey Porter. I know you've got pneumonia, as they call it in South Georgia, pneumonia. I hope you're feeling better, but you're tough as a nickel steak for coming on the show this morning. Rodney Orr should join us here momentarily from Tider and Cider. What's going on in Oxford right now? The national guys say things, and then there's the local guys who are drilling down. As Brendan says, drill down local, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Good. We're just, like I say, just curious what's happening down there with that coach of yours.
I'm not doing
Yeah.
great at all. Nancy, how are you?
I'm doing awesome.
How's your phone?
Man,
Does your phone turn into fire during the day when we're just texting and people calling you all day asking you what's next? Because mine does.
Yeah, that's probably why I drove walking pneumonia to me last Thursday, and I'm only 53 years old, so I've never even heard of that for somebody that young. But
wow,
no, it changes by the hour, by the day, and the thing, it's just been handled so poorly. The whole thing, right? For this to be now a month into this, first of all, the rules they've got to change. We can't have schools having coaching changes tampering with other schools during the season, during a playoff run. That's the first thing that we learned about this is that the system has to change. Imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and Ole Miss fired their coach and they're trying to hire Florida or LSU's during a national championship run and totally flip their season upside down, right? It's not fair for anybody. So that's what we learned. One, we got to do it like the NFL. It has to be tampering. There has to be severe penalties if you're caught meddling with other people's coaching. Just have it. All the coaches. It doesn't matter if it's from a G5 program to a Power 5. Power 4 now. Right as soon as the playoffs are over, and then everybody can go find their coach at the same time, right? Have the same rules and regulations for everybody. Two, Lane should have let this get to like this. This is now we're what, a month into this. I mean, I think it's so ad nauseum now with the Ole Miss fan base. It's just like, they're worn out from it. I mean, it's every single day. It's a different story, right? He's staying. He's going to LSU. He's going to Florida. He's staying. Every single day brings something different. I'm sure the fan bases, I know it's good for the media to get their clicks and make as much money as they can but it's not good for anybody else. It's not good for the school. It's not good for the coaches, their families. It's certainly not good for the players that this is all about. It's not good for the assistants that are on the staff. It's not good for college football. The whole thing is a mockery. It's just a shame that the NCAA did not have some forethought that to think these things through and allow what is transpiring right now with this to transpire.
Yeah.
Yancey, that being said, the whole last week, Lane Kiffin's family in Gainesville, in Disney World,
Yeah.
in Baton Rouge, break that down in detail for us, please.
Well, it's reported. Nobody really knows the footage of Gainesville. It looks like Bigfoot, right? Same thing with Baton Rouge. Nobody really knows who went what, but reportedly, Kiffin's son and his ex-wife went to Gainesville, and then the next day, his brother and his brother's no, excuse me, his brother's wife and his brother's two kids went to Baton Rouge. Kiffin's certainly not going to verify any of that. He's not going to deny it. He's not going to talk about any of it. Jimmy Sesson's not going to talk about it. LSU or Florida is not going to talk about it. But that's what reportedly transpired. From there, nobody knows. There's nothing wrong with doing your due diligence. If I had two or three companies that were wanting to employ me or buy my marketing firm, I would certainly do my due diligence and let the family look at the places. The problem is that it reportedly they left the LSU sent their plane into the Oxford airport, and Florida sent their plane into the Oxford airport. That would be just really a slap in the face by Kiffin and their decision makers to allow that to happen. You could drive 15, 18 miles down the road to the Batesville airport and fly out over there, right? Because nothing is going to get hit in the Oxford airport. People are going to find out about it. So, really poor decision making. I think if you wrote a book on what not to do, if you're a head coach and you have other schools come after you, there should be a picture of Lane Kiffin in a book written about this. Everything you could do wrong, he's done wrong in this coaching search.
Well, once you do this, and okay, if you stay and then you start to falter, they'll get rid of you real fast. And
But he's got a history of
doing
exiting
this
poorly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's the whole thing. And he can't. You got the documentary, and it's basically saying I fought all these demons all my life, and now I've overcome them. And just weeks later, he's doing the same stuff.
Well,
It's such a
look,
it's
this
and
whole,
look, he could stay at old. It doesn't matter where he goes. He's fallen into the same traps that has plagued him his whole career.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to watch.
I know when he was in South Florida, and I know, when he was sort of trying to reinvent himself and stuff, I know people that were talking about, he understood that he had to control the media. He had to control his PR at some point. He had to control the narrative. He knew he needed some 911 on his, his career and his personality. I think he went to work on a lot of that stuff, but he went to work on the perspective of what everyone was seeing. My question is, Yancey, this to me, and this is a statement, I ask you a question, but this to me feels a lot driven by an agent, like a la Jimmy Sexton. These planes flying in the air. That's a great way to, that's classic. Now that's like old hat. Buddy and I caught the Florida Brass when they didn't come home with Chip Kelly. They weren't in the Gainesville airport. They were in the Ocala airport coming in, sneaking in the back door. So you're right when you say all those stuff. So it's how much of this gamesmanship is Jimmy Sexton and how much you fault Lane, in a sense, like they're a part of this trolling. I mean, I just don't know what the point is. For sure, I eventually drive maybe a competition, may make some money, all that stuff. But what is the point of all this?
There is no point. And if you want to look at other schools and see what they have to offer, there's nothing wrong with that. If you decide to leave, it is your life. There's nothing wrong with that. It's the process of getting to that point as the mistakes he's making. It's the maturity level of about a 10, 12-year-old,
I
honestly.
swear to God, it is like an inner
It,
child from his childhood about his dad, and he hates coaching and all this shit. I swear to God, I do a psych profile on this
Yeah,
guy.
it's
I
bad.
don't get
it,
it. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's I don't blame Jimmy. You got to be the
No.
captain of your own ship, and Jimmy's other clients and coaches have not made a circus like Kiffin did. All he had to do is stick to his guns, like he's always said, and said, "Hey, I don't discuss coaching jobs and contracts and extensions until after the season's over." And that's it. And then after the season's over, then send your family to go look after the Egg Bowl. Go send your family to look at it. Do it discreetly. Drive 15 miles down the road
Well,
to
yeah,
Batesville. Go
but
take a
that's the
look at
point,
things.
right?
Yeah,
This was not
Oxford,
the street.
you're not gonna get away with people not knowing that you're doing this by flying your family out of Oxford Airport.
So
I
it's
mean, there's
intentional then,
nothing.
right? So then it's intentional.
It seems that way. It
So what
seems
the
that
hell?
way.
Like I'm just
I don't.
I
Nobody
know you've been
knows.
around it forever and you know this stuff. And I'm in Gainesville. You're in Oxford. We're in two different places. We're right on top of both of this, both of us, both of you and I, and Rob obviously. And I'm like, we can't figure it out other than the
And
fact it is a personality defect or whatever, or like this whole thing has been already decided weeks ago, and we're just watching the whole drama thing. But again, why
well, if
is
that
this
was the
happening?
decision, then you avoid all this. There was a way to handle the thing. You look at other schools. I mean, even Drink at Missouri, he's interviewed several places, but
I
he's
know.
not getting slammed by his fan base. He's doing things behind the scene, and things are speculated. Right?
Yeah,
He's not. He's not sending his family out of Missouri's airport to go down to LSU in Florida and take a look around. There's a way to do your due diligence and not be a slap in the face to the people that have done so much. I mean, it would be different if he wasn't getting along with his bosses or he didn't like it in Oxford or anything that made it a personal issue. There's no three people when you look at the president at Ole Miss, the AD, and the collective leader. There's not a better situation in the country for him, and he's been so thankful for him, and they are friends, and so it's just like real true friends, not just a work
yeah,
relationship. It doesn't make any sense to show a lack of respect the way that he's done. That's what I'm saying. The maturity level, I would imagine Jimmy has got to be pretty frustrated about the whole thing. I don't think he's encouraging this. I don't think that he is uh, telling Lane, "Hey, let's fly you out of your some of your family out of the Oxford airport and let it leak out, and that way it'll push the money up." He's going to be the highest paid coach regardless, right?
yeah,
He's
yeah,
got the same amount of offers. He's got around $100 million for each school. He's got $25 million in NIL on top of the revenue sharing at each school. Everything is the same money wise. So this is not a money decision for Kiffin. It's just become a circus, and the shame of it all is, yes, LSU and Florida season have been over for a month or so, but Ole Miss is in the middle of a national championship run. What
yes,
about your players and your assistants and 300 people in the football organization,
yeah,
right? That you are destroying. That everybody's worked their whole life for this, and that is what is the shame of all this. And Kiffin, if he gave him the truth serum, he would come out and say, "Well, that is a huge problem. College football's got to get that fixed. They shouldn't allow schools to come after coaches during this. I didn't create this." He would throw the blame on college football, and he is correct in that aspect. But you also can burden the onus on what's happening yourself with your actions, and that's where the problem is. He's throwing gas on the fire instead of trying to throw some water on the fire.
Let me throw something at you. Kelly Leak brought it up, and I was going to say it too. You remember back 2003, the Colonial Bank Challenger jet flew to Louisville and met across the river with Bobby Petrino, the Auburn president. The Auburn president, Dr. Walker, an engineer, obviously not graced with the social amenities, but he went. Auburn's athletic director, David Housel, several members of the board of trustees, and boy, did that blow up. I mean, it really blew up. Okay, so
Well,
that began Tuberville playing cat and mouse with Auburn. You remember in 2007, he disappeared
Yeah.
allegedly over into Arkansas, maybe with David
Yeah.
Griffin,
Yeah.
70,000 acre cotton farmer down in the Delta in Helena. That one was weird, but I think that was kind of, there's two things that come to mind when I think of what Lane Kiffin's doing: narcissist. And remember, crying is one of the most serious forms of manipulation there is. People get caught after doing something like this. They start crying and whining. Celebrities do it all the time on TV. Lane Kiffin is right there in that category, Yancey. You nailed him. Brendan nailed it as well.
Well,
Yeah.
just to speak, sorry, Answer, but just to speak to what you're saying, the technology now, Rob, is that we can track these planes in the air.
The tail numbers.
So we have,
Mhm.
we can track them now. There's entire Twitter pages and things just devoted to doing these things, right? So no, they're right. So I think that's, and then it's the drama of it also. All of that's going to swirl around. But Yancey, this and Rob, this to be true. I've known for a fact that when they're doing some of these coaching hires, they'll just send 2 or 3 jets out during the day to go for a, burn out on this or fly there or go whatever, just to, I don't ever know what's the big secrecy of it, but it always seems to be the way in Florida. And I know, we've been dealing with it since Dan Mullen,
Well, whenever all private planes have the initials of the owner. I have a friend, they've got a Falcon 900.
But they've also got I know Florida's got 3 or 4 jets, and then they've got 1 or 2 that are not, that are not registered with the, with the university.
Yeah.
So timeline wise, you say that he didn't, what is that he sent his wife and his kids off on that weekend. Everyone's saying speculation that he's engaged. Well, he's
Ex-wife. People need to remember that.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get that correct. Can you just,
Yeah.
I guess through what
allegedly he sent his ex-wife and his boy, not his daughter, not his other 2 daughters, just his ex-wife and his boy, went on to Gainesville, and then allegedly the next day, his brother's wife and 2 kids went to Baton Rouge. And there's conflicting reports if his ex-wife was on that trip to Baton Rouge or not. More say that she did than not, but I've not been able to confirm that.
Well, it's all about the money. And I mean,
and you don't know sorry, Bob, but I just want to, you don't know any more about, that's about all going forward.
Yeah,
you don't have any sort of insight or leaning where you think he might end up.
Where I thought I was talking about the flights. Every day it changes. It really does. I think, I really do think it's 50-50 at any school. I really do. The Ole Miss thing is the whole thing with Ole Miss that is what he has told people on the inside of the IPF is that he is doing this to get more attention for Ole Miss, to show the rest of the country that Ole Miss is a blue blood like Florida and LSU, and they bet him to come here, and he chose to stay at Ole Miss for a reason, and he was going to go raid the portal. That's the theory of why he would stay at Ole Miss and why he let it get to this point and build this drama.
That's
now,
right, Rob. That's
we're going to see
is all get out right there.
That to me, the drama had built. Why not just go ahead? And when it got to this fever pitch, and you're turning your own alumni base against you to go ahead and say, I'm staying at Ole Miss. Now, in his defense, the reason he's saying that he's not going to do it that way, because he has a hard cut rule that he does not sign contracts or talk extensions until after the last regular season game. And to his defense, he has done that his whole career. Whether he was at Alabama or FAU or Tennessee or Ole Miss during the 6th year, he always waits until after the season has played out before he makes a decision. So if you do it this one time, let's say hypothetically, and he said, okay, this is madness. I'm staying at Ole Miss. And then let's say 5 years from now, let's say Alabama's job opens in the middle of October, and they say there's rumor going around that you've been offered, or you're going to take the job or not. And he says, I'm not discussing that to the end of the season like I always do. And they said, well, back in 2025, you did. And so then the media makes an assumption that he's hiding something, right? So that's where he goes into the hard line. If I let the toothpaste out of the tube this one time and make a decision before the end of the regular season, I can't ever put it back into the tube, right? So that's kind of what on Lane's from his camp, the reason he's handling it like he is and not making a decision either way that he goes until after the end of the regular season, because he has a hard line policy not to make decisions until the last regular season game has been made.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that's people are speculating on the speculation. And again,
that's right.
And I've been involved, and there's been a public finance deal on a $200 million bridge or something. But you sign an NDA, and everybody in that room, you sign it. If you violate that, you're terminated, and you lose stock options. You lose everything. Well, and so I think Dave Bartu said it yesterday, Brenda, didn't he? He goes, nothing. I've been involved in lots of coaching searches. He does that for a living. He says, nothing ever leaks unless the agent specifically goes to somebody in the media and says, get this out there.
Well, yeah. And I think that's definitely because, it's an individual thing, right? So they're not going to tell the university, and they're not going to tell anybody else, and the agent's never going to tell anybody. But in this particular case, we've all seen this several times. This feels scripted by Jimmy Sexton or Lane and Jimmy or whatever. So if it just seems like to me, like you lean into this whole thing, wait, let's do this great idea, Jimmy. I'm going to pretend to go. We'll drive a price, and then I'll do a big homecoming, and we'll be like, yeah, we'll get Ole Miss and screw everybody else, and let's go around. But then all of a sudden you get into it, and someone offers you $100 million. You're like, oh, well, that's kind of a different story. Now I guess we have to. It just seems really convenient that you originally set off to do something good, and I got to do what's best for my family. Oh, great, now I'm out. It just feels like a script to me.
It would be very, very poor script. And if Jimmy wrote that script, it would be just fascinating. But he doesn't do that script for any of his other clients, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Dan Lanning, the way that he's handled things. You don't know. So, well, that's true.
Control at heart. I mean, he is the.
And there's another angle too, right? You got to look at this. The other theory is that Lane wants to leave, but there's no way that he's going to quit on his team in the middle of a playoff run, right? So he can't announce for another school. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's the other theory. The theory that he stays is we've laid that out. The theory that he's leaving is that he's just trying to drag this on so he can continue to coach this team. Because if he comes out and he tells his bosses that he's, signing with another school, there's no way they're going to let him coach in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then he's going to, his whole career, he's going to be the coach and maybe the only coach in the history of football in any sport that literally quit on your team in the middle of a playoff run, a national championship run. Yeah. You would never, ever, ever live that down. And so he knows that. And so, and I'm sure he's invested all this time with this team, and he wants to see it to the end, right? So he wants to have his cake and eat it too. So it's either A or B. I think it's either A. This is the biggest troll job in the history of college football, which I think was handled very poorly. To do that, to let everybody know that Ole Miss is great and you love it here and all that, and you're going to raid the portal. I think it was a very poor angle to do it that way. Or B is that he does want to leave, but he wants to finish out the season.
Well, if you go back and look, what Lane Kiffin's doing is a 2-part series. There's 2 books. Bodyguard of Lies. It was written about the American and the Allied invasion at Omaha Beach, Normandy. It's just like this. Lane Kiffin has been reading Bodyguard of Lies because now look, he hasn't come out and said anything specific, but he and Sexton can stop what is going on. And in fairness,
no doubt.
If you look at Ole Miss fans, They have done everything and more that he has asked for.
Everything.
Everything. I have a lot of Ole Miss friends, and this is a kick in the swimsuit area to every damn one of them. And I'd be madder than hell if I was an Ole Miss booster. And listen, man, when if I've got a company and I pay employees, I'll be like my dad always was. Just be fair with me and account for the money, because everything that's all you got to do. And they've done it. Ole Miss has given Lane Kiffin all the money he asked for, the NIL, and you can say Mississippi doesn't have a lot of money. You're out of your mind. Again, I go back to the accounting school. There's going to be a lot of CEOs in America that are Ole Miss grads in the coming years because they are producing them. Thank you, Mr. Jimmy Davis, the longtime advisor for the School of Accounting, a legend at Ole Miss, Yancey. You know who I'm talking about. Also advisor to the Sigma Nu chapter down there. This whole thing, Brendan made a good point last night. We were texting right before he went on the Buddy Martin show, which you can catch tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern on this channel. Actually, Low Down with Lauren Meadows tonight. I'll be on there with Lauren. Is the Florida job too scary? Is the Auburn job too scary? Is the LSU job too scary for a sane person to go there? Or really, does anyone sane coach college football anymore, Yancey?
He has the perfect setup at Ole Miss because you have all the resources and you have the bosses, which is so critical. I mean, you look at Florida, for example, he would be working for an AD that literally got his brother banned from college football at Chris Kiffin with the show calls at Mississippi State, and no president. He could go to LSU where they just hired a brand new AD that has never been an AD in his life and a brand new president with the governor trying to run the ship. And you got Ole Miss where you have the collective that is as good or better than anywhere in the country, and an AD and president that are your good friends that will do anything for you and let you do whatever you want. This is a guy that will leave during practices and go deep sea fishing on his own.
Yeah.
And they're counting golf rounds at Auburn with Freeze. I mean, he doesn't show up for any alumni. Right. He doesn't show up for any alumni events. He's not going to be buddies with any of the alumni. He is going to shut everybody out of the program, which really normally pisses a lot of people off, right? At programs when you literally do not even talk to any of the alumni out of school. He has total control, autonomy at Ole Miss that he would never have at any of the other schools. And if he tried to get it that way, if he wasn't winning a national championship, their alumni would be trying to run them off. And so that is the mystery about why would he even be looking to leave? I mean, everything in a perfect world, you have it right there where you are. What are you looking? What is Lane even looking for? Right.
Yeah.
And so that's the bigger question than anything, than where he's going is what is he actually looking for?
Yeah. Well,
nobody knows.
This is what's crazy. Today's world, you need someone that's a CPA and an attorney. Here's the thing. Look at Arkansas. We talk about the Walton money. Most of the Walton's children went to Missouri. They gave $500 million in the last capital campaign at Arkansas, went to academics. It ain't going to athletics. You need to get somebody at that school that can do what Ole Miss has done is they have tapped into the deepest pockets in that university's fan base, okay? And there's a lot of Ole Miss alums out there, and they've got them on board. When you talked brilliantly a few years ago, they put the $350 million that they had in the bank, cash. They said, Kiffin said, hold on, let's don't renovate the vault. It's fine. Let's put that into NIL and player development. That was a stroke of genius. You've got some real smart money and legal people at Oxford. Yancey, you and I talk a lot.
It is all about.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
It is all about the leadership. Every school has the resources. I don't care what school it is. It's what kind of organization can get to it, right?
Yes.
What is your leadership? If Florida and LSU tapped into every single dollar at their school versus Ole Miss, they would come out on top every single time, right?
And Sundays.
And Sundays. But who can get to those dollars, right? Who can organize it? And then from Kiffin's perspective is for all these flaws about how he's handled things, there's still this. He's arguably the best coach in football,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, you have all these flaws with the personality traits of what's going on, but the bottom line is he's one hell of a football coach.
He
And
is.
and
Yeah.
he is on top of this new era of the NIL and how much money you spend at this position and how much money do you don't think that he could have a top 5 high school football class every year? Easy.
Yeah.
At Ole Miss, he can fight for the number one, but he's not going to go raid high school and have 20-25 million dollars sitting on the bench developing, not even playing. He's going to go to the portal and get guys that can play now. But which guys do you get in the portal, right?
Yeah.
So he is a step ahead of everybody outside of maybe Kirby Smart. And
Yeah.
Kirby's just got the whole thing. But outside of Kirby, he's ahead of everybody in every way that you make this new era work. And that's why he's so wanted. And Florida and LSU, their leaders have got to be thinking too, like, what in the hell are we doing? Are we sure this is worth it? Are we sure that we really want to get into this? But they also know that if you get him, you're going to win and win big.
Yeah, and we are. And look, we had a little bit of technical difficulties early. We're going long. Brendan will tell us when to wrap up. We're going to have to wrap up. But
no, let's try to talk to Rodney. Hey, Rodney,
okay, yeah.
you
All
there?
right, let's do that. Rodney, are you there with us? Rodney,
we're trying to work with Rodney. I
feel like Richard Nixon
might
on
be,
that.
It might be his Bluetooth will be on, but he's got a new Galaxy. We'll get him sorted out.
You remember when we allegedly went to the moon? Because I'm not sure if we really did. Remember Richard Nixon? Hey, we have cell phones that can't get through across town, but Richard Nixon got right through to the guys on the moon. Hello, Yancey. How are you? This is President Richard Nixon.
Here,
how are things on the moon?
I'll tell you what Rodney's going to say. I can just tell you for him that Alabama has become too reliant on their quarterback. And when the quarterback is not on top of his game, which he has not been for the past 3 or 4 games, then Alabama's going to struggle. They got to find a running game. They got to find some balance. It's kind of the same thing that we saw last year with Ole Miss, right? This is really the same team that Ole Miss had last year, and they're too reliant on the quarterback. And so, he's struggling. He struggled for really the last month, and they got lucky to win a couple of these games that they won in close games, and they've got to somehow figure out how to get some balance offensively to continue to advance in the playoffs. That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, and I know Yancey's having some problems with his new phone, but we'll work through it either today or next week. But you're right. You don't want to be codependent on any one player on your team. But I've never seen the Ole Miss fan base, the alumni.
Yancey, you're fine, by the way. It was Rodney. He just misspoke.
Yeah. I've never seen Ole Miss so perfect. Ole Miss is more perfectly aligned than I've ever seen, and that's why Lane Kiffin would be crazy to leave. But he also might be thinking, I'm never going to be worth more. It's like a stock or a family business. If you can sell at a 5X or a 10X multiple, God help you. Do it. Do it because you don't know what's going to happen. You can have a takeover by a bunch of wackos that change the tax laws. We'll try again.
Hey, Rodney Orr, are you there?
Well, he's gone again. Well, it's like
we'll try.
We'll get it. We'll work it out for the next week. But Yancey, this is some great stuff. And Brendan and Buddy and Franz and Lauren and the whole Gator Bait team are working harder than you can imagine on the story. I know you are too. And I think you've gotten better. Maybe you've cleared up your throat from being on this show. We should keep you all day. You'll get healthy. If you had to pick, gun to head, what do you think Lane Kiffin's going to do? Is he going to stay at Ole Miss? Is he gone? Based on just everything that we've talked about. And it could change. We know it's a very fluid situation.
Gun to head, I would lean slightly he leaves, and I think it's slightly towards LSU. That's gun to head. But it would not surprise me any which way he went. If he went to Florida, LSU, or Ole Miss. I think one thing that there's kind of some things going around is Chris Kiffin, his brother. You have nepotism laws in the state of Florida and Mississippi, which don't allow you to hire your family as a coordinator, where the state of Louisiana, you do not. And he would be able to be the defensive coordinator there at LSU. I think that with Florida, it hurts him somewhat with Strickland there. He's in the middle of hiring GMs. He already told them he wanted his own GM. And, there's some personal animosity with, him setting up his brother while at Mississippi State with the show calls and got him banned from college football. I mean, that's you got to think of it in human terms. I think that hurts Florida. I
Yeah.
really do.
Yeah.
And with Ole Miss, it's just you don't understand why he would even be thinking about leaving, but obviously he is. So why nobody knows. But again, after lunch today, there'll be something else, and people feel strong that he's staying at Ole Miss, and by 3 o'clock they'll be feeling strong he's going to another school. So everything is
And
so
then he ends up the head
fluid.
coach of the Miami Dolphins and says, F you.
Yeah. And then, he, I mean, he can, and that could happen.
That
and
would
that could
be
happen.
Lane Kiffin, a la Lane Kiffin.
Oh, it certainly would. Go announce that he's going to LSU or Florida, and then 2 weeks later, takes off to the Miami Dolphins. I mean, it's, it just didn't have to be this way, and that's the sad thing about it. And all the demons that he talked about in his documentary, and it just an ironic thing, it just came out like the week before this all started. That's what's so ironic about this is as soon as the documentary comes out, then boom, all of this happens,
It's all
right?
a simulation, Yancey.
It's
We're all living in a simulation.
It is. It's narcissism 101. I mean, that's what it is. And it's all me. Ole Miss, if he leaves, you've got the money. Everything is in place. It's like the new coach at Auburn.
everything.
If they can keep that roster at Auburn, they're going to win. You're going to pull out of the driveway doing 110 miles an hour. Same thing at Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's never been this good ever I've seen at Ole Miss. And I'm telling you,
They
Ole
bring
Miss,
everybody back.
Yeah, they got everybody coming back.
They got.
And what's Austin Simmons going to do?
Well, I wouldn't think he'd follow Lane Kiffin. That's for sure.
I don't think so.
And that's nothing on Lane. I mean, Lane obviously picked somebody else over him, so I wouldn't think he would follow Austin. There was a lot of rumors earlier in the year he was going to go to Miami. I don't know how that still is in the fold, but he's from South Florida, and there was strong rumors he would be headed to Miami earlier in the year. If he leaves, and then who's going to become the next. There is a lot of chirping going on that if he did leave, that there will be a head coach named probably within 48 hours of him leaving, and that would be John Summerall.
And Auburn thinks they're going to get him. I mean, then we're going to get into the Summerall sweepstakes. It's crazy.
Yeah. So but how is that speculating? Is there truth to it? Again, you don't know, right? Yeah. I would hope that Ole Miss would really, with everything that they've got lined up with the NIL package and the salary package and the assistant pool package and everything, I would hope that they would take a hard look at everybody. And if it became John Summerall, then it became John Summerall.
Yeah.
Take a look at and don't get in a rush and make a decision, an emotional decision, right? But this is what Ole Miss has going for them. They have Glenn Boyce, and I'm not giving Homer speech and all that kind of stuff, and Keith Carter. I don't think there's two better leaders there are than what Ole Miss has in place. So I feel comfortable that they will make the right decisions for Ole Miss with whatever happens. I think Ole Miss is in good hands.
Yeah, I do too. I've never seen the university so perfectly aligned. And it goes back to when Kiffin was playing footsie with Auburn 3 years ago. The Grove Collective exploded. And it exploded. And it was wow. Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's say goodbye. Been a great show. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We're the most blessed people in the history of the world. We'll see you tomorrow. Great stuff as always. I'm guessing that's a gator mounted on the wall in Brendan's studio. I just noticed that.
Yeah, I stuffed it. You guys are cool with your duck hunting.
Yes, and deer.
Pretty scary that you just shoot some flying helpless birds and then you send dogs to go pick it up. You guys don't even move. You just sit there.
I love that.
Get on a fan boat and we take one buck knife and I jump on the back of the gator head. Like that. That's how I have to do it. I did it by myself, and then I stuffed them and put them on the wall.
That is awesome. Hey,
Yeah.
for executive producer Brendan Martin, the best in the land, Rob Brown, we'll see you
me
all
the
throughout
Gator
the day. And tonight, GatorBaitMedia.com. Check us all out on the Sidelines.live network, man. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, everybody.
Night, John Boy.